Welcome, everyone, to the Inclusion Podcast. I'm Dr. Julie Costin.
And I'm Dr. Christy Preddy-Franzak. We're so glad you're here as we explore all things inclusion.
So whether you're a school leader, an educator, a parent, or simply passionate about inclusion, this podcast is for you.
In each episode, we go beyond the usual conversations, diving into what truly makes inclusive education work.
Together, let's make a difference, one conversation at a time. Here we go. Episode 37 is going to change your life, and I'm serious. It's called the 5-minute problem-solving strategy, and we use it all the time with educators in school systems that are problem-solving around issues of inclusivity.
Yeah, sorry, Julie, when you said that, I couldn't help but almost snicker out loud because I was like, oh my gosh, I need this. And I was like, oh, right, I'm helping. Sorry. But this is so good to know because I think sometimes we hear, be strength-based and solution seekers. And sometimes you're like, no, I've got a problem and I want some help. And then there's like always this comic that I think of, Julie. And there's like a teacher handing out sample lesson plans. And then there's PD providers at another table. So can you imagine that? There's a table with teachers and lesson plans that they've created, and then PD providers, kind of like you and me. And the line to which table people want to go to, I know if it was you and me, it'd be the PD providers, but no, it's to the teachers, right? Because they are tried and true. They are solutions that people can use, not just platitudes. So I got really excited that this is one that you'd want to get in line for. This is one where you would want this download, this strategy. So let's go unpack it for us.
Okay, so for 20 years, I've been using this with educators in school settings, and they say, hey, Julie, we need you to come help us solve this problem. So I show up, and what I bring is this strategy, and they solve the problem because, as Christy said, educators have the best ideas, educators have the most on-the-ground experience, and they just need a little formula to do this. So what this is anytime you're having any problem at all, you stop and say, let's make a 5-minute problem-solving session. And I'm just going to outline it for you because you might be someone like me. It's like, just give me the formula and I got it, okay? So first, I'm just going to give you the formula. Essentially, you sit down with, let's just imagine there are 4 of you on a team. And all 4 of you sit down and you decide we're going to spend 1 minute or we're going to spend 5 minutes on this problem. The first minute, only 1 minute, is to describe your challenge or problem to others. So someone sets a timer and someone says, here's the problem, blah, 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 blah. They tell the whole problem as fast as they can and they're done in 1 minute. Christy, why is 1 minute so important here?
I think it's twofold. One, it limits the time you can admire the problem. But secondly, people feel really seen and heard, and it doesn't skip to getting to a solution before we truly understand the problem, because we're really good at giving advice, but we're not as good at listening. So I love that it gives time to listen to someone so I truly understand the best I can, but I don't have to spend a whole planning period listening.
Right. And research suggests that educators, I hate to say this to y'all, we spend a lot of time admiring the problem.
Yeah.
Describing it, et cetera. So it limits it. But as Christy said, it's a very focused 1 minute where we're fully listening to the problem itself.
Right.
The second minute is we write a mutually agreed upon solvable question.
Now stay here for a minute, Julie, because I had never heard this before I met you. So just kind of tell us why it's phrased this way and what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. So for fun today, Christy, I'm just going to pick this problem. The problem is I struggle to have dinner for my family ready. Okay. Let's just imagine that's a problem I have. So in 1 minute, I describe my challenge or problem to others, which is I'm the only one thinking about dinner. I am the only one who has to come up with ideas. I'm so bored of my ideas and I'm just rotating spaghetti and tacos every other day. So then we go, well, what's the solvable question here? And so it usually starts out, in what ways can I? Do you hear how that prefix to that sentence suggests that we're about to solve it? In what ways can I? In what ways might we? How could we? Those are all lovely entrances to the sentence that you create, which is this agreed upon solvable question. So then I might say, well, okay, in what ways might I have dinner on the table every night for my family? And then someone says, well, remember, you said during the problem solving or the describing part that you want it to be healthy food and you want it to be blah, blah. So we start to get closer to what I want. Oh, in what ways can I have dinner ready and prepared that is healthy? And you just keep naming the things that you wanted in that first part. When we get the question really tight in 1 minute, this is where we jump to the solving of it. So the solving of it, you set a 2-minute timer. And remember I said in this case, there were 4 teachers around the room. Everybody puts pencil to paper and tries to think of 20 solutions to this particular problem. And the solutions should be fun and freewheeling and silly and outrageous and off the wall and serious, because we all know about brainstorming. There's been a lot of research about brainstorming. The more you open up the parameters for people's brains, the more ideas we're going to get. So everybody comes up with at least 20 solutions to solve the problem. Now, the truth is someone's going to go, oh, 2 minutes is up. I came up with 4. It's no problem. There's no judgment. It's just as many as you can. And you set a really high bar to come up with the solutions to that. And Christy, I guess I want to ask, why do you think the brainstorming is so limited for 2 minutes?
I think it actually forces people to move beyond the, well, I don't know, or just throw in spaghetti, tacos, hamburgers and rotate 3. Like, it lets you be funny at first or hire a chef. And then like, okay, can't really probably hire a chef, but maybe. And then you go and go. And like, I was thinking as you were talking about that how much technology has changed things. And I'll come back to that with my pro tip in a minute around brainstorming and using artificial intelligence. But I do think that setting 2 minutes forces us to sit down and stay focused on a solution, let ourselves be a little bit creative, but then go, I got to get 20. I better come up with something, or at least fine tune it. Maybe I would say that I fine tune my chef idea down to Blue Apron, down to something prepared, down to at least one night a week we eat out. You know what I mean? Like it gets to this stratosphere, but it doesn't let me go on and on and on.
That's right. I think that's right. And so that's kind of that brainstorming idea or how to approach it or why it's only 2 minutes. And then you select the first step from the brainstorm list. So as I go around the room, someone says, you mentioned that your family are grown adults. And I say, yes. And then they say, oh, simply a Monday person, a Tuesday person, a Wednesday person, and a Thursday person, and Friday you go out. And I go, what? Brilliant. Okay, we're going to try that. We're going to try it. So we select a strategy and I try it for 2 weeks. And then we come back together and see what else we have to add in to make it more successful. Like my one kid wasn't able to get dinner on the table, so we had to figure it out, blah, blah, blah. Those are examples of how you do this. So really quickly, it's 1 minute to describe your challenge, 1 minute to write this mutually agreed upon solvable question, 2 minutes to brainstorm, 55 seconds to select a first step from the brainstorm list. And you might wonder, well, what do you do with those last 5 seconds? You celebrate your success. And this, sometimes people roll their eyes and sometimes people are all about it. But really important to stop and be like, that was awesome. Thank you so much. High fives, celebratory dance, clink your Diet Cokes together, whatever you do to celebrate. But we need to celebrate brainstorming and problem solving in school systems in brand new ways. Now, when teams use this, they don't usually use it for personal problems like what to get for dinner on the table, but they might use it for how do we help the student get their homework done? How do we help the student who's struggling on the bus? How do we help this student? And whatever it is, that's how this is typically used. And it is so successful because people come up with creative ideas, they try them out for a couple of weeks, and then they come back to the drawing board and they see how's it going, if anything needs tweaking.
Yeah, so Julie and I are going to give you some pro tips, but first, let me remind you that you can get this download with the steps that Julie has just walked through and the timestamps so you know how much time to spend so that it only lasts 5 minutes. And in the show notes, we'll also link to additional resources we have about the 5-minute problem solving. And so you can get those at inclusiveschooling.com/download 37. So that's /download 37 to get the 5-minute problem solving handout. And so, Julie, let's just give some pro tips for as we wrap up this episode. Anything that comes to your mind as well in terms of things that teams have done that has helped them be effective. If there's a certain way that you've gotten clarity on solvable tips, solvable questions, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm going to start with my pro tip. Use a actual timer and stop talking when the timer goes off. Sometimes people get just a little too lax and they're like, okay, we just need a few more minutes on brainstorming. It's like, nope, we're moving on. So let's select from what we have right now because time in schools is so limited. So this 5-minute problem solving is really the power is in the fact that it only takes 5 minutes.
And I would say my pro tip, and this is only a recent evolution at the time of this recording, which is using artificial intelligence or AI as a brainstorming partner. So let's say you don't have time with those 3 other colleagues and you really want their expertise. Back in the day, like yesterday, I would have said, oh, get a Google Drive document, type up your problem, ask your team to set a timer and brainstorm. Now I would say use AI. Tell AI in 1 minute, that's still to your pro tip, use a timer. Now AI is going to be so quick, they won't need 2 minutes to brainstorm. But I think it could help you, in the prompt that you write, say, here's a picture of what's in my fridge. Here's what ideally would be it's healthy, under this many calories, and also a vegan option. But realistically, it's got to be on a budget and it's got to be this 20 minutes or less because I'm not a chef, right? So I think you could go in use this framework and find support in brainstorming in all different kinds of forms, even if you had to do it by yourself.
Well, I love that so much, Christy. And I even love having a computer at the table as your 5th partner. So or maybe one of the person is saying, I'm not very good at coming up with ideas, so I'm going to do AI. And so they bring that contribution. But I think whether you're doing it just with AI or a group, it's like, it's going to give you a way out of the box that you're in, the way out of the usual ways that you're solving those same problems into something brand new. And teams that use it, I guess my last pro tip, Christy, is teams that use it say, thank goodness for this strategy. Why haven't we been doing this more? Administrators say, when I just bring out this 5-minute problem solving formula and we get to work, they feel, meaning the educators feel heard, they feel seen, and we come up with a solution that everybody's happy with.
Yeah. And I'll say my last pro tip or last encouragement to use it is it brings consensus even when you didn't know there was a difference in perspective. So we've used this with families, and let's say it's 2-parent household and they're preparing for an IEP meeting. Sometimes you're so caught up in parenting and the weeds and your own thoughts about the IEP meeting, you may not have had time to listen to your partner's thoughts about what they think the problem is. So even having 2 people get 1 minute each to describe the problem as they see it can make sure before you create a solvable solution or question that you're headed in the same direction.
Yes, absolutely. It does. It brings so much clarity where you realize there wasn't clarity before.
Yeah, so be sure to download the handout and check out all the resources that we've linked to in the show notes at inclusiveschooling.com/download 37.
Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe and catch up on past episodes where we share valuable insights, straight talk, and practical steps to challenge outdated special education practices. You can find every episode with the show notes at inclusiveschooling.com/inclusion-podcast to build more inclusive schools together.